Hmm.
We are live now.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening from every part of the world that you're joining us today on Panastrack TV and radio. Today in the house, I'm going to be having a discussion with Advogado Lourenço Eduardo Viana, all the way from Brazil. Eduardo Viana, please can you say hello
Yeah.
to our audience?
Hello, Ms. Arinola. Hello, Mr. Abba Anwar. And hello, my brother Suhaibi. Hello, brothers and sisters all around the world. First of all, I would like to greet you from Brazil. It's a great pleasure and a singular privilege for me to address you this morning or this afternoon or this evening because I don't know which exactly moment you are going to hear our words and to see our faces. But again, it's a great pleasure and a singular privilege for me to be here. I greet you all from Brazil.
Thank you, Advogado Viana. So today our discussions will be around the National Day of Black Consciousness in Brazil, which will be taking place starting from the 20th of November this year. So I'm going to be asking Advogado Viana a couple of questions, and he's going to enlighten us more around this Black Consciousness Week in Brazil. So, question number one, what is November 20th in Brazil?
Well, Mrs. Arinola, it's a great responsibility for me to address this subject. November 20th is a very important date here in Brazil. This date is officially the Consciousness Day, the Black Awareness Day in Brazil. This date honors a great Black Brazilian leader, a great African descendant called Zumbi dos Palmares. It's important to pay attention the pronunciation Zumbi dos Palmares, Zumbi of Quilombo dos Palmares. Zumbi of Palmares was one of the great leaders of the Quilombo of Palmares. Quilombos here in Brazil were villages where enslaved people fled and organized themselves in a movement of resistance against the enslavement. Quilombos quilombos were true places of resistance for enslaved people. They were places where these people preserved their language, their religion, their culture. I would like to quote an example. I think everyone already heard about the capoeira. Capoeira is the Afro-Brazilian martial art and is believed that capoeira has emerged within the slave quarters and within quilombos as well, exactly as a tool of resistance. People who lived in quilombos organized themselves in order to free more enslaved people. Quilombo dos Palmares was located in what today we know as state of Alagoas in northwest region of Brazil. In that time, it was called the hereditary captaincy of Pernambuco. Pernambuco is another state nearby Alagoas. Today is of Alagoas, but on that time, Quilombo dos Palmares was located in where today is the state of Pernambuco. Quilombo dos Palmares, Quilombo of Palmares, was the largest of its kind, not only here in Brazil, but it's believed that it is the largest quilombo in all America, all Latin America. In the best days of that quilombo, it is believed that we had around 2,000 to 20,000, excuse me, 20,000 of people living within that quilombo. Zumbidos Palmares died on November 20, 1695. And that is date, that is moment, that date is nowadays known as Brazilian Consciousness Day.
Thank you, Advogado Viana, for that elaborate explanations around the quilombos and the late Palmares. Secondly, why is it so important to talk about Black consciousness in Brazil at this moment?
This is a very good question, Mrs. Arinola. Well, contrary to popular belief, Brazil is not a paradise of racial equality. We have many problems of racism against African people and African descendant people. Sometimes this racism is hidden. Sometimes this racism is very evident. Most illiterate people in Brazil are African descendant people. We have to show some problems we face here nowadays. Most of illiterate people in Brazil are Black people, are African descendant people. Most of who lives in favelas, I believe you know the word favelas. Favelas are economically deprived communities, especially on the outskirts of the large cities, the big cities here in Brazil. We call these neighborhoods of favelas. The biggest number of people who lives in favelas are African descendant people. Another problems we face here is that most of the people arrested and incarcerated in Brazil are Black people as well. It reveals a problem of law enforcement. I am a lawyer and I am very aware about this problem. We have so many law enforcement errors and an excess of rigor by part of the policy offices and the policy workers because we have a great number, the biggest number of arrested and incarcerated people here in Brazil are African descendant people. In addition, the salaries of Black people are lower than the salaries of white people, and these people perform the jobs considered manual jobs, being structurally underprivileged within Brazilian society. Of course, there are exceptions, but the big picture, the overall picture, so that we need to improve a lot to more egalitarian, to build an egalitarian situation. I can mainly highlight the violence suffered by Black people. It's important to be aware that all these problems are consequence of transatlantic slave trade process and that took place for almost 400 years in Brazil and in the world, in all around the world. And that is why it's so important we talk about Black consciousness here in Brazil. One day is not enough. We need a week, we need a month, we need an year, we need 400 years talking about the subject to overcome all of bad we lived throughout so many centuries here in Brazil. What we need live today are consequences of this transatlantic slave trade. Mr. Nolan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Advogado Viana, for that clarification around the Black consciousness in Brazil. Now, when did the 20th of November, because I heard you during the explanation around the 20th, which was the death of Palmares, who was named after
Yes,
the
yes,
celebration of the Black consciousness. So, at
yes.
what point was it decided that this 20th November will be the day to celebrate Black consciousness in Brazil? Which year was this decided?
Well, initially, this date was informally.
Advogado Viana?
Yes, can you hear me? Hello? Can you?
Go ahead, please. I can
Hello?
hear you. Go ahead. Go ahead. I can
Okay,
hear
thank
you.
you. Informally, the Black movement had already been claiming the November 20 as the day of Black awareness, Black consciousness day since 1973, since the year 1973. And on that moment, 50, more than 50 years, around 50 years ago, informally, the Black movement started to claim this date as an important date. However, this date was officially established by the law, the federal law number 12519 of November 10, 2011. So officially, the Brazilian government established this date as the Brazilian Consciousness Day in November 10 of 2011. We have 11 years of this date is officially celebrated, officially, because we have more than 50 years, around 50 years, we have around 50 years of informal celebration.
Okay, thank you very much. So, this year, 2022, will be the 10th year, or is it 11th year celebration of the Black Consciousness Week? So, I move to the next question. November 20th, is it a national holiday in Brazil now that it has been fully officially recognized? Is it a black, is it an official national holiday?
Well, unfortunately, it is not a national holiday. Some states, like states of Alagoas and the cities within states, recognize the date as a holiday. However, more important than being a holiday or not, in my humble opinion, what is important is to carry out activities that remember the resistance struggle of the African descendant here in Brazil. As an example, here in the state of Minas Gerais state, where I live, it is not a holiday. And in all the state, in some cities we have a holiday, but here in all the state is not a holiday. But despite that, in every single school, the professors and the teachers and the university professors and the high school professors and elementary school professors and the teachers, all of them need to do some type of action with the students. So, despite it is not a holiday in all the country and just some places of the country, despite that, it's a very important day because we do so many activities, so many important activities among with the students, and they really appreciate and they understand the importance of this date.
Okay, thank you very much, Advogado Viana, for that clarification. Now, what are the main themes to be analyzed and discussed during the Black Consciousness Week that we're going to be having very soon? Can you talk about that a bit?
Yes, in short, we can, as I mentioned before, we remember the memory of Zumbi dos Palmares, Zumbi of Palmares, and the memory of so many other African descendant leaders we have here in Brazil. We also recall the social problem faced by us, by the African descendant people, with emphasis to violence. Violence is a problem that we face a lot here. We also emphasize the black build, the black art, the black culture. We celebrate our lives, our resistance. Without a doubt, we are strong. We are strong for because we are survivors. We celebrate many things in this date.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Now, as we all know, Pan-African Strategic and Policy Research Group is the one hosting this interview, and we know that majorly we center our work around research affecting Africans both in Africa and the sixth region, which is the diaspora. We also know that we have the Pan-African Lusophone group for those around Brazil and other Lusophone countries. So, how will Pan-Abstract International and Lusophone Pan-Abstract be helping in the celebrations of this Park Consciousness Week in Brazil?
Oh, thank you. Very good question. Panabstract is helping in many ways, many ways. Today's interview is an example of this help, but not just that, not just that. Panabstract members have already offered to present lectures to students from a Brazilian institution called Federal Institute of Minas Gerais State on the Ouro Branco campus. Ouro Branco city is the city where I live, and we have a campus of Federal Institute of Minas Gerais. It's called the IFMG here in Ouro Branco, and we are very happy very happy that these speakers have accepted our invitation. We have many members that already accepted the invitations to present lectures about the connections and the future connections that we can build among the Brazilian diaspora and the people that live in our motherland continent.
Okay, thank you very much for that brief clarification. Will this event be held online, or is it a full physical event, or is going to be an hybrid event where people can be there physically and also people that can't come to Brazil can also be part of the celebration virtually?
Thank you, thank you. That is important to be clarified. The event that Panabstract is helping to organize will be an hybrid event. We will have online and in person, a face-to-face approach participation. The proposal is that people interested in watching will be able to do so throughout the YouTube channel. In addition, the event will also be recorded on the YouTube channel of IFMG, Federal Institute of Minas Gerais, and the people can watch the full week later, the full event later.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Now, which speakers have already confirmed their presence? Can you talk a bit about the speakers and some of the topics they will be talking around about during the sessions?
Yes, it will be a pleasure. Very good question as well. We have three main speakers that already confirmed their presence at the event. The first of them is the Colombian sociologist professor José Antonio Caicedo. He is from the Andean University in Colombia. He's also member of the so-called the Association of African Latin American African Latin American researchers. We have many African descendant researchers here in the Latin American, and we have an association that of these researchers that is a very important institution here in Latin America. He is member of this association, and he's going to talk about the importance of we highlight research developed by African and African descendant people. He's going to address this subject. Another important speaker that is going to talk with us, you know him, I believe you know him, is Professor Esterline Gonçalves Gênero from São Tomé e Príncipe. I believe you know him, Mrs. Arinola. He's going
Yeah.
to talk about the diplomacy in São Tomé and the importance of his works with diplomacy. He is important diplomat by career in São Tomé, and he is connected with the African Union as well. So we are very proud to talk with Professor Esterline Gênero from São Tomé and Príncipe within this week. And finally, another person that already confirmed his presence is the professor Sheikh Chiang, who is professor of English and Black Studies at the University of Armes. He is also a member of Panabstrag International. It's important to highlight that Professor Sheikh Tian is member of Panabstrag International, and Professor Esterline Gênero is member of Panabstrag Lusófono Group.
Very good. Thank you so much for that clarification. Now, will this be an isolated event, or will there be other events like this in the future?
Oh, it's not going to be a isolated event. No, no, absolutely. Our proposal, our idea, we want that this is going to be the first one of many other events developed in partnership between the IFMG Campus Ouro Branco and the PANAFSTRAG and the Association of Afro-Latin American and Caribbean Researchers. Our dream, our will is that this is going to be the first of many other events developed in partnership.
Okay, thank you so much for answering most of the questions and shedding more light and giving clarifications around all the programs surrounding the Black consciousness in Brazil, which will be coming up in less than a week. So, on these notes, I appreciate your suggestions and all the contributions you made so far. I would like you to leave us with a final message so that everybody on this call can go away with at least one important message around the Black Consciousness Week in Brazil.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Arinola. Thank you, Mr. Abba Anwar. Mr. You, my brother, Suhaib. I'm not quite sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Mr. Suhaib. But thank you all that are listening and seeing us here at this meeting. I would like to thank you, especially Ms. Arinola Bello, for conducting this interview. I also thank you for the opportunity to talk a little about this date that is so important for the African descendant population here in Brazil and all around the world. And the message I would like to leave for our brothers and sisters that are listeners of Panabstrag Radio and Panabstrag TV is that we Black people, we African descendants, we Africans, we need to be proud of our history. of our past. We need to be proud of who we are in the present. We are warriors. We are survivors. That should be a source of pride for us. But above all, we need to remain more and more united to overcome the challenges of today in order to build together a more prosperous future for all of us. I firmly believe that the African continent and its diaspora share not only a common past, but also a present and a future. Everything that promotes our motherland also promote promote us, her children. Thank you so much for your audience. It was a great pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you so much, Advogado Viana, for creating time to be with us live on this show, all the way from Brazil. I say a very big thank you to my team, Shuaib and Malam Aba Anwar. A very big thank you to my Executive Secretary, General Oshola Olata Inde Williams, and to all those who have taken time to be with us on this call today. So we're using this opportunity to remind you that starting 20th of November, the Black Consciousness Week in Brazil is starting up. So please join us to be part of the program live from Brazil. Thank you once more and have a wonderful day. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful day. And please give my regards to General Williams.
Yes, I will. I will
Thank
definitely.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.